Good day and thank you for joining ΣիվիլΝeթ. The 14th theater festival in Armenia, HighFest, is on its way. It's almost done. And today my guest at the studio is Arsinee Khanjian, not the activist, but the producer, the director, the actress, whose piece was one of the centerpieces in the HighFest Festival. Thank you for being here, Arsinee. I was at the play, which ended with standing ovations. Auction of Souls, Aurora Mardiganian's life. We've been hearing a lot about her this last 2 years since the centennial, mainly because of the prize named the 100 Life after her. But well, you had your own approach, and what you presented on stage for me is, if I wanted to describe it, was that, is there such a thing as documentary theater?
Actually, as a matter of fact, there is. There is a tradition of documentary theater. And interestingly so, it's a tradition that has been very much explored in Germany. For instance, there was a project as I was preparing Auction of Souls, Performing Memory, which is the subtitle, and I'll get to it, why I called it so. But at the same time, at the Gorky Theater the year before, they had presented History Tilt. It was a German production, which was on the court case of Solomon Tehlirian, and it was all based completely on the court material that was used or developed during the trials. And this new production, which dates maybe of 6-7 years, was completely based on that documentary principle.
So is this a good approach to cover a story like the Armenian genocide, that documentary approach? Is this something that has a way to go in arts?
You know, I don't think there is one particular form that is going to be the best in order to tell a story or history. But what I can say about my choice in this case is that I realized that maybe what would be really interesting for me to try was to go outside the natural attraction to present the history of the Armenian genocide every time we are proposing the narrative of that history. So because I already knew from probably around 2007 about Aurora Mardiganian and about her life, her work, her contribution to the history of the genocide, I thought the most interesting way would be to tell one person's story and use the historical context as the environment in which you can develop that person's story. And I think that's, in a way, what also gave me this possibility to collect material which are all one way or another archival material, and cover the story of Aurora Mardiganian as if it was a historical event which normally allows itself to be documented as such. So I played on the conceptual side by focusing on the one person in order to tell the collective. And that's why the documentary form was an option for me to explore.
Well, for me it was interesting because, I'm jumping questions here because, well, my conclusion also was that, or if this is true or not, I don't know, you also presented how she was exploited, how she was victimized during the genocide, how she survived, and then there was a second stage, being exploited by Hollywood. her story and her person and her energy being exploited to another extent here?
Well, because once again, her life circumstances, and as I say in the performance, is an analogy of the history of the Armenian genocide, or rather of what happened to the Armenian genocide. In a way, we can say what happened to Aurora was exactly what happened to the Armenian genocide history in that sense, which is that history, that story happened. People were killed. Other people paid attention to that. Other governments, other states paid attention to the Armenian genocide. They really made a big noise about it in the United States, also in Europe. And then hardly a few years later, with all the treaties from the Treaty of Sèvres to the Treaty of Lausanne, the entire Armenian question collapsed, fell into oblivion. And eventually it took forever, including to Armenians, to awaken the same way as it happened. It is in the 60s, in a way, that we recuperated our history and we started actively to address it again with various engagements, different types of engagements. The same thing happened to Aurora Mardiganian. This girl arrives as and I say girl because she was a young girl. She was a teenager. She was 17 when she arrived to the United States with one mission. And I think the only reason she survived also throughout her life was this one mission. Effectively, she's not only the first Armenian movie star in Hollywood, she's not only the first woman who allowed the history of the genocide to become the first genocide story told in Hollywood, but also she was the first activist actually who came literally from the ashes to a position where she wanted to tell the story and the history of her people. And she continued living even when there were no longer people listening to her. So this analogy of what happened to the history of the Armenian genocide and what happened to Aurora, to the point where when she dies, no one knows where she's buried. This is an incredible, actually, it's not a metaphor, it's a parallel continuation of the personal with the collective, and I think this is, and that's why I call it not only Auction of Souls, which was the name of the film that was eventually discovered, the 1919 film, black and white, which was discovered only in the 80s, you know, but only bits and pieces, and they would be probably outtakes. They're not even necessarily part of the 3-hour film. So I decided to call the subtext, which is even more important for me because it says performing memory. And the word performing in English has different meanings. There is the performance aspect of it, as you're performing memory, but also in a medical film, to perform an operation, for instance, means to dissecate and like sort of look, search, further separate, understand the pieces, and I think that's what I wanted to do with her story.
Okay, concentrating on words. So you were using words such like kissing, protecting, caring, playing, and their relatively positive meaning, and at the same time showing the negative that happened, the connection between this word, kissing, with sexual assault, you know.
Yes.
So where does that come from?
Yeah, and playing with absolute violence. Ravishing, which is a beautiful term, it turns out to be one of the most destructive images. It came actually from the material that I was using for my research. And I based myself not on the 20-minute film, because for me actually it was the non-reference. It's the least, let's say, conducive element that I could use, but I could use her biography, I could use the script. Then there were 3 versions of scripts. I used only one version, probably the one that was used for the film, to be shooting the film. And basically on these 2 elements where her story was told somewhat through her own voice, I realized because of the period, we were talking about 1918, 1919, there were euphemisms. But I didn't realize this at the first reading. At the second reading, both the script and the book, I realized that there is, for instance, laughing. And I was thinking, what does this laughing mean? It keeps repeating itself. And the gendarme laughed, and the German officer laughed, and you know, or the girls are being kissed, and I realized there is a repetitive use of words that are struck me as being literally euphemisms for rape, violence, humiliation, in a way, refutal, pain, but somewhat the way that it was being reported, they could not use, of course it was a cultural element, but perhaps also not unlike what happens today. I mean, in the media, when we see reporting, often there is another layer, interpretive layer, which is also based with the media's own bias about what terminology to use to describe. I needed absolutely at that point to pick up on this. And because when you remember, if you remember in the play also, there is one audio recording of Aurora at the very end of her life, where she is actually, that was very touching for me, because here was this old woman, she's talking about what violence was happening to the bodies of the women, and she refers to the word vagina, and the way she puts it, she says, how do you call that? Vagina. You call it. And she's the only one who says, who uses the word vagina.
But also in her character, which is from what I've researched about her, what I've read about her so far, is that gullible, almost like really gullible sides that you bring that up because, well, from her stories, meeting Charlie Chaplin and saying, wow, your hands are really small, I thought you'd be, or the way she thought the bear would attack the audience and she tried to keep it until she hurt itself, or she jumped off the balcony because she actually believed the whole setup during the filming. So it also it also comes across from the segments from her interviews as a 90-something-year-old that's been done by the Zorian Institute. Were they the Zorian Institute?
Absolutely, they were the Zorian Institute archive materials.
So she's this brave and groundbreaking person, but also like very Miamid in Armenian, if you use the word.
I don't know if she's Miamid or gullible, as you said earlier. I think it's something else. I think this woman, it's what's phenomenal for me, is that having seen and experienced and witnessed everything that she has, and which has become the collective experience of thousands of men and women in terms of what she conveys, I think she never lost the trust that she needed to use as a strategy so that she tells the story. She always trusted the fact that she will be able to tell her story the way she saw it. And she allowed all the possible revelations to happen. I mean, Aurora's openness to life is extraordinary. So yes, when, for instance, on the set she sees the extras wearing sort of gendarmes outfit, Turkish soldiers' uniforms, and she believes that suddenly it's the Turks who have come to the set all the way to Hollywood. I think it's more, at that point, it's not that she's naive, I think it's the trauma that is kicking in. I think Aurora used, and this is something that I relate to, I believe personally that the most successful efforts in life are the ones where you can trust yourself, that more open you are, more clear it's gonna be what your responsibility is, but others as well. They may disappoint you, but at least you can say and confirm that they did disappoint you because you offered them the clear sort of negotiation and they refused to play by the rules of the game. And this is a very strong position, very fragile and complicated, but I think if there was anything natural about Aurora is that she had only that strategy as a and we have to, again, to come back to this notion, she gave herself this mission to become the spokesperson, the witness of her and her people's tragedy, and she never gave up. Even when she was, I mean, the archival material that I found, again, by chance at the Zorian Institute, in a way, you know that material about Charlie Chaplin and the beauty, I mean, what a story. Here is this woman and she's explaining, I've seen, she says, Charlie Chaplin in image, and he had big hands and he had big feet. But when she sees him in real, it's not naivete, it's that period where cinema, where image is having this magical effect on us. You know, you see the image and you believe it. When he sees the person who created that image, that person becomes the artificiality and not the image. It's an incredible commentary on what media does. And that's why also, again, I wanted to include the exploitation, because media continues to carry out, consciously or not. In her case, there was a lot of Hollywood exploitation of her, quote unquote, stardomship or the promise.
Yes, and it was also surprising for me that there were actresses hired to stand in as her person and continue meeting the public as Aurora when she couldn't anymore. Well, Arsinee, another question, your choice of actors. A Turkish actor and an Iranian actress playing scenes or segments of
Reenactments.
Reenactments. So
yeah,
that
reenactments.
was, these were actors chosen on also ethnicity or their
well,
background?
it's a very good question. If they were chosen on their ethnicity, actually that's not the case. I had very clear parameters in terms of, because the project came together in such a last-minute situation, but it did happen at the Maxim Gorki Theater in Berlin. I was asked what resources I needed, and I asked for a dramaturg, if I can have, and I just thought 2 actors. And I thought 2 actors because I thought probably I'm gonna need 1 man, 1 woman. Literally, I couldn't, because I hadn't started the research of the project. Okay. I hadn't written it.
I'm going to interrupt you just for a second. I want the audience to also meet your actors. So we talked to them before the play.
That's right.
We have interviews from them. Let's take a look.
In this performance, my role is somehow a performative reenacting role. I'm switching through people or victims of this genocide from the narrative of Aurora Mardiganian. The whole thing is something which really happened. So, I mean, I'm playing things which really happened, but usually you know that, okay, it's somehow through an artistic way or it's poetic or something, but this is really something Aurora told herself, so it is a victim's witnessed view, and it's difficult because I will never know how these people felt. I will never be able to really give these emotions they had that time.
It's a great chance just to contribute something to what happens, and especially for me, who's a Turkish guy. I mean, I guess there's a lot of responsibility to maybe just tell one story. The challenge is to be so cruel and to be able to show the cruelties and the of that what happened. So it's not easy, but hopefully it works.
Okay,
what is really interesting, what you just saw, you saw Taner Şahinturk and you saw Elmira Bahrami. So both of them are Gorki, well actually Taner is a Gorki ensemble, house ensemble actor. He does many plays in the repertoire. The original female part was Sesede Terzian, who was playing in 2015. And CSD also, like Taner, they're part of the Gorky company. So when I had asked to have the 2 actors, they said, here are our 2 actors, would you like? And I thought, wow, what a perfect proposition. I would have probably not dared asking for a Turkish actor, even though that company has many Turkish actors, Persian actors, Armenian actors. Maybe I would have asked for the Armenian actor, but I would not have, just for the correctness of it, to ask necessarily for a Turkish actor. And yet I had the perfect formula in terms of what I would have. And actually that choice from the beginning gave me an idea of also how to structure the play. And then Elmira came into her replacing CSD, because CSD was pregnant and she just had a child. So this year when we did again at the Gorky, it was Elmira who played the female part in that sense. What I would like to say is that also these actors, they are really outstanding actors. This year the Gorky Theater has been chosen for a 2nd year in a row in Germany as the best theater in the country. They have incredible programs, projects, and obviously actors who are working there. These, in a way, I also love these actors because they have also worked in film. And my choice of never using the actors except myself as the lecturer, I never took advantage of their performance as theater actors on the stage. We only see it in live recording, in the reenactment scenes of stories based on Aurora's testimony. So they had to have also not only theater presence as actors, but also the film or image type of presence where they can be performing the 2. And I think that's why they're absolutely phenomenal for me.
Okay, thank you very much. And we also thank the viewers for joining us, and we hope you get to see the play wherever you are one day.